Okay. So, thank you for having me on your channel.
Yes, yes.
And my name is Koko. I'm a journalist by profession, by training, also by qualification. I've been working as a journalist for over 7, 8 years, maybe longer, but I took some breaks in between. But I've been a journalist for a long time, and I've worked in Pakistan, I've worked in Denmark, I've worked in the US and in Germany. And several years ago, when I started in journalism, it was a very different job. It was a very, excuse me. Several years ago, when I started in journalism, it was a very different job. And I used to enjoy different things. And with time, I just don't enjoy that anymore as much. And it's changed a lot. The journalistic landscape's changed a lot. I worked in news, I worked in politics, I worked in gender. So now I've kind of moved away from doing a lot of journalism. I still do it. I don't do it very often. And yeah, the industry has really changed with social media. So last year I started my podcast. It's called Burqa and Bikini. You can find it on Instagram at Burqa and Bikini. And it's also on YouTube. It's also on Spotify, Apple. And we talk about everything that's taboo under the sun. I live in Berlin. I come from Pakistan. So there's a lot of diaspora and there's a lot of people back in Pakistan and also several, I mean, a significant audience in India who relates to these things. Yeah, that's the story. That's where we are at right now.
Begin with our interview. I'm genuinely interested to know that what was your inspiration to start such a courageous podcast, Burqa and Bikini. So what happened and pushed you to start that?
It's a great question. So I have been talking about women in different shapes and form for a long time. And I would say that it started in my 20s and it came from a totally different lens. And what happened was that at the base of everything, what happened was that I wrote an article when I was 22, I think, or 21. I can't remember now, but a really long time ago about how I went through child sexual abuse when I was really young. And I come from a really conservative society, and if you're writing something like this with your name under it, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird, but it was not so weird for me. I was like, okay, I don't really care. I don't care who's reading. Like, I'm a journalist, so I'm supposed to write things. And it was a matter of time that I'm writing other people's stories, and someday I'm gonna write my own. So I wrote that article, and started this whole, it just opened a new gateway, right? I was not afraid before, but I was especially not afraid now. I was like, this was easy, you know? And then I talked a lot about also sexual violence in the church and a lot of Me Too. I reported extensively on Pakistan's first Me Too case, which happened, I think, in 2018. And I reported a lot on the negative things that come with your body, with the women's bodies, then all the horrible traumatic things that come with sex and how it's twisted and how consent is twisted and all of those things. And then after some years, it just made sense to talk about the things that are not traumatic because people don't talk about it at all. And the whole concept of sex in society is you can do it, but this is what you should not do. If you are doing it, then you have to be careful about this, this, and this. Like the entire model of sex is built on things you should not do, versus, okay, you're having sex, enjoy it. Nobody says that. Nobody speaks like that. And I felt like I have to say it. And there's a lot of people saying it now, if I'm completely honest. Like you live in India, right? So you know Lisa Mangaldas. Lisa is an amazing inspiration, and she is a source of a lot of sexual knowledge. She's a sex educator, and she has literally changed the market. And she was an early adapter. She was doing it before anybody else would do it. And there's a lot of other sex therapists in India, from India. Sometimes they're living in the UK, sometimes they're based in America. But there's a lot of movement that's happening on changing this narrative, but it's not very present in Pakistan or in the Pakistani context yet. So I wanted to do that, and I was like, it would be great to just sit down and tell people that this is okay and this is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to have fun with it. This is so crazy that you're supposed to have fun with it and nobody tells you that, you know?
You are running this podcast. Any interesting person or any interesting conversation that changed your perspective about sex completely?
Not yet. Not yet. But of course, there's small bits and pieces that I've learned from so many people that have changed my perspective on small things. And I love having my perspective changed. Because honestly, like, there's very few things in the world that you'll tell me, and I'll be like, but this is my fixed perspective and it can't change. I mean, I'm always open to changing my perspective. I really have no problem somebody really challenging me because without it, it's not fun. But the thing with social media and the thing with algorithm is if you're spending enough time online and you think a certain way, then you follow the people that think like you. So you are also in your own echo chamber, I think. And I'm also in my echo chamber. I have to accept it. Maybe it would be better to not be in an echo chamber. Maybe I have to speak with someone who's absolutely radical in their opinions, and I will. You just start something off in a place where it feels safer, but eventually I will speak with people who will really, really challenge me, who will really challenge my audience, who will not be textbook liberals who are advocating sex has to be done in a certain way, women have these rights, men should be doing this. They will say stuff, this will be outrageous, it will be radical, it will be triggering, and that's okay for me. So I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think I've spoken to that person yet that who will shift my brain altogether. Like it's difficult to completely change your mind, but I'm open to it.
What do you think about the role of educational institutions, be it in developed nations or be it in conservative nations or society? What do the educational institutions play an important role in addressing topics related to sex and health?
I don't think that educational institutions are very responsible, if I'm completely honest, because everybody just likes to get up and say stuff like, oh, but we have no sex education. Oh, but we have no this and we have no that. I think we have everything. We have internet. So you can just Google what you want to know. Obviously, it will help if the culture is different. It will help if I read something online and then I take it back to school or I take it back to my friends, my allies, my network. And it will help if things are received in a different way. But I don't really think that schools are responsible for teaching you about sex. Really not. Because there is so many skills in the world Like how to run a business. You don't learn that in school. You don't learn that at all. Like you learn different things in school. Schools teach you to be part of the system, you know? And that's my opinion, and I don't encourage people to waste their time on thinking, but why are schools not doing better? Well, schools are an institution, and they are doing what works for them. And if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it anymore. You live in 2025 and you can just search everything online and find your answers and then take it from there.
How can we encourage more open discussions about sex within communities that may be traditionally conservative, or they may be harboring some taboo around these topics?
You can encourage conversation by conversation. You can encourage conversation by doing conversations, by having more conversations. Um, but you also have to think, do you want to change everybody's mind? I don't know if I want to change everybody's mind. It would be nice to change some people's minds, but I don't want to change people's minds who require so much energy that I would spend more energy on them than myself. So you can just change people's minds by talking about the things that matter to you enough. But do you have to? You know? You have to ask that question. I don't want to do that.
We believe that family members play important role in shaping our attitudes towards sex and sexuality.
Sorry, could you repeat your question? It was not clear to me. Your
Yes,
audio
yes,
just
yes, yes,
blurred
yes.
out.
I will repeat again. Do you believe that our families play very important role in shaping our attitudes towards sex and sexuality?
Yes, I 100% believe that our families shape how we look at sex. I mean, the relationship between parents, it shapes how you look at love, and it shapes your perception of dating. It shapes your perception of the kind of partner you want, the kind of upbringing that you have, religious or cultural. Those things shape how you find partners, what decisions you make in your life, in your love life. And I think decisions related to your love life are a lot more integral than any other decision you will make in your life. And I know we live in a world where we like to think that it's a lot more important to build a business, but it's not going to affect you the way your home's gonna affect you. So I think it 100% informs your opinion about sex. It informs your opinion about partnership. A lot of people carry a lot of trauma because that's just all they've seen around them. They carry shame because they have this conditioning. You're not supposed to enjoy sex. This is supposed to be something that you're meant to do, but you're not supposed to have fun, especially if you're a woman. You're supposed to have babies. This is the ultimate reason why you get married. A lot of conditioning comes from the family, but I do think that after some time, the family is not responsible for you. I mean, if you're old enough, and that old enough can be different for everybody. Somebody is old enough at 40, somebody is old enough at 22. When you're old enough, it's not their fault anymore. It's really not. But I think the conditioning, it shapes you, but you can break it. It's entirely up to you if you want to break it or not.
You are doing burqa and bikini. I've gone through the videos also, but what is one of the most biggest challenge to bring a topic like a very beautiful discussion around sex in the public view? What is the biggest challenge for you?
The biggest challenge for me, I don't think that I have pressing challenges. I think um, one of the challenges is to be able to relate to people. Because if there is no relatability, nobody's gonna watch what you're doing. I think that's a challenge. Because I live abroad, and a lot of people I want to reach live under drastically different conditions. So there has to be a balance between what I say, the kind of people I bring, but also I'm not really forcing my audience to change something. I'm just bringing them small pieces and pockets of information, and that's it.
To have a more open dialogue about sex, how like what we can do for the society so that there is they speak about sex without stigmatization. What do you feel?
I think this is the conditioning, and it will take some decades. It will not take years, it will not take months, it will take decades. And then you will see a shift in the culture. And I think we have given women tools to grow and tools to develop and tools to break away from the barriers and the shame. A lot of women were not handed these tools, but they're fighting for them, I think. And despite everything, I know the population in India and I know the population in Pakistan, and it's difficult to reach everybody, but there is always a ripple effect. And women are trying to bring that ripple effect. It will still take decades. But I think what's really missing is that we haven't given men tools to evolve. They're just stuck there. So women are getting more and more and more independent and informed and evolved, and men are not. So they are just stuck in the mindset, stuck in the patriarchy, stuck in their privilege. And very few of them actually want to keep up with the times. So the problem is not that women don't have tools anymore. The problem is that men don't want to evolve. And I think it will take both sides to create a culture that will not stigmatize sex.
Based on this, I have a question. Like, which is the conditioning regarding sex you are mentioning, and what efforts a person can take to break that conditioning, and where men are not evolving, that women are able to evolve.
First of all, the conditioning is shame. At the heart of everything, there is shame. I mean, if you're enjoying it, it's supposed to be shameful. You can enjoy it, but not enjoy it too much, because then you're a slut, you know? You can talk about it, but don't talk about it too much, because then you're too desperate. It's all of these things. So people are speaking about things, but there's always shame, which makes people think what other people will say, I think. And the conditioning that men cannot let go is that they're losing their privilege. A lot of men, a lot of men cannot put up with the fact, I think in society these days, is that I'm gonna ask my wife to do something and she will say no, and I have to respect it. And they just cannot handle that because they were told that you will have your way no matter what. And having a wife in a lot of these societies is an economic decision. You will have one person to cook for you, clean for you, have your children, raise them. It's a great deal. So that conditioning that prevents them from taking no for an answer. And it's also not just no, it's also like comprehending that the other person is human and they can say no, and this is their right to say no. And men cannot come to terms with that, a lot of them. They don't like the pushback. They don't want that a woman is coming out and saying something like, how dare she knows better than me? And there are men who are actually really amazing and they are doing the work, and a lot of men are also giving women the space that they can take up. But this is the thing. For many centuries, men had the space in the world because women were allowing them to take that space. They may not realize that, but a lot of the successful men, they have a success story, and there's a woman in the story who's keeping the house running. And now it's time to give back, and very few men are giving back. I mean, there's amazing men who are creating space, who are creating, avenues and opportunities and just letting women be. But there are many, many, many who are not, who are insecure and who think that, how is she better than me? So you're supposed to be pretty, but you're not supposed to be better looking than the husband. You're supposed to be smart, but not smarter than him. And I think this is the conditioning. This is the patriarchy.
My question is that what does the state or the constitution plays a role? Any given country, state, and its policies play a role about sex. And if the state is not playing a positive role when it comes to sex, how it can impact the mental health of its population, especially the females and males. You have been to Germany also, which is, yeah, currently you are in Germany, which is a very developed country throughout the world. And you have also been to a country which is the most conservative country. So, what
Hmm.
are your wisdom of experience from that?
First of all, the role that the state can play is to not play any role because I don't like states. I'm not somebody who thinks that we need a state. I mean, a state should be in the background. The state cannot tell me if I should have sex or if I should not have sex. Like, the state cannot tell me if I should have an abortion or sorry, the state should not tell me if I can have an abortion or I can't have an abortion. But that's just me. Now, realistically speaking, obviously, state plays a role, and that role is having laws and policies that do not approach sex and violence against women as something that is seen as her fault. So, like, you have to completely get rid of the victim blaming. There has to be zero tolerance that if there is a woman who says, my husband tried to touch me with a finger and this was inappropriate, that there's any counter narratives about it, I think. And in a lot of countries, the laws around how rape cases are handled, how assault cases are handled, especially in conservative countries like Pakistan, where marital rape is not considered rape very often. And there's a lot of feminist discussion on these things. This is where the state can play its role. There has to be zero tolerance against violence. And now people will say stuff like, yeah, but there's also women who beat men. I mean, come on, get realistic. How many women beat their husbands actually? Well, there are, sure, but this is the insecure voice, which will always find the other side of the story. Not everything in life has another side of the story. Of course, there are women who will hit their husbands, and that should also be unlawful. And I think this is where the state plays a role.
You have been through a very progressive journey till now. Like, from, like, you are in a very developed nation. So, how did you break all those stereotypes, wrong things which were fed in your mind through society, through state, through culture about sex, and how education played a role for you in breaking that stereotype and plus your own courage? Any journey, small little bit, can you share with us?
It's a great question because this has no easy answer. And I think a safe place to start is by saying no. And I don't mean in a sexual context, say no, but If somebody asks you to go somewhere because you're 15 and your parents are going somewhere and you don't want to go, just say no. I don't want to do it. And I think this is the easiest, safest place to start by saying no. And of course, there were things that worked out in my life, like education, like the exposure, like the kind of people I was meeting, the kind of content I was consuming, like the kind of pop culture I was consuming. And all of this is my privilege that I came from a family and a society where I could consume anything on the internet. That doesn't mean that there were no unspoken boundaries. There were unspoken boundaries. There were also spoken boundaries. But I think a safe place to start is by saying no and by being curious. Don't believe what they tell you. Don't believe what the parents tell you. Don't believe what the state tells you. Don't believe what the family tells you. These are all institutions, state, family. Don't believe it. Like you're supposed to be 20 and you're supposed to look for a man and you're supposed to get married and then now you should have a child. Who said that? Who said that and why should I do that? Don't believe it. Do it if you want. There will be women who will do these things, and there will be feminists who will criticize them for doing the traditional things in life. This is okay because as long as they're doing it intentionally, it's fine. You cannot control and change everybody. But say no and ask why. Why is a great question. There's one God and you're supposed to believe in him. Why? What if I don't? I don't want to offend anybody. Believe in whatever you want, but ask the questions. And I think why is a great question. It's a powerful question.
So my question, one more related to marriage, is that uh, throughout the world in conservative countries, women who have sexual relations before marriage are very much looked down upon, and men are taught throughout conservative countries that such woman, a person should not marry, and as well as if a woman has sexual relations during marriage with some outside person, for them also women are looked down. My question is that sometimes people resort to violence, killing, murders, or sometimes destruction of those women's families also. How we need to address these problems, and what media is playing a wrong role to address that.
It's a it's an important question, and I think that there has to be a line that no matter what someone is doing, how disagreeable they are to you, how unacceptable they are, no matter what, you don't get to be violent. Somebody is a sex worker, good. You hate them, good. Don't want to marry them, I get it. But you don't get to kill them. You don't get to be violent. And I think that's the boundary. And I think men have to be taught that. And I think there are some men who have deep and radical awareness that the world looks like it looks because of them. And there are others who don't have that awareness. And I think the ones who have that awareness, they're not responsible for others, but I think they can play a role in once in a while saying something that matters. And that's the small role that they can play because nobody can stop living their own life and start wanting to change other people. And I think that boundary with violence is the main point. Did you have something else in the question that I missed out because it was a long question?
Okay, I have the. I think you have spoken correctly. If you want, I can repeat the question. That is not an issue. The question was
Yeah,
that.
if I missed something, then feel free to repeat it.
Wow, I will repeat the question, which was that women who have sex before marriage, men are taught throughout the world to not marry such women, and they call such women, unfortunately, as a slut. And women who, like during marital relationships, like in a marriage setting, when women, due to some or other reasons, have sexual relationship with other men. Yeah, generally in societies throughout the world.
Sorry, did you say in within a marriage, women have sexual
Even
relationships?
marriage.
So you mean when women are unfaithful to their partners, or I don't understand.
Yes, unfaithful. So most of the time, to solve such problem, murders are done. Wrong ways are utilized to solve such problems. And my question is why men or societies don't use a ethical or a good way to solve such problems? Because sometimes both families get devastated and fall to trauma. And I believe
Mhm.
that by using good means, such problems are not solved.
So first of all, I want to correct one perception that if a woman is unfaithful to her partner and the husband thinks that he can kill her, I think the connection between unfaithful and killing is not really a connection because there are times when a woman does nothing or it's like saying, oh, well, you've given me a reason to be upset, so now I can kill you. And I think that connection is really dangerous to even draw that comparison and that parallel. And there are times, in fact, in most of the domestic violence cases, women haven't done anything to deserve that. Nobody does anything to deserve violence. So to say that this is a way to solve a problem, I think that that narrative has to be corrected. This is just violence. No matter what anybody is doing, you don't get to do it. And that's the one thing. And two, um, there are men who are unfaithful to their wives in the during the course of a marriage or a relationship. Um, it's equally bad. But if somebody is unfaithful, you don't get to lay your finger on them and kill them or hurt them in any way. It's horrible if somebody's cheating on you, you know, it's horrible. It's not fun. It changes your life, it breaks your heart, it can induce so much trauma. It can change your perception about women and men, and it can break families, but you cannot be violent. It's like if somebody has done something to hurt me, what's the maximum that I can do? I can just make noise. I can do nothing, and I shouldn't be violent, and that's the first and foremost rule. And I think that framing has to be fixed and corrected because there is no difference between cheating and husband killing the wife. There are many women who never cheat and the husband still kill them. So that's that. And as far as women who have sexual relations before marriage, this is the most normal thing in the world to have sexual relations. There is nothing more normal in the world than having sexual relationships. So I don't care what the men think, whether they're sluts or whether they're sex workers or whether they are dishonorable. It's just the most natural thing to want to have a good, fulfilled sex life for your physical needs, for your mental needs, for everything. So, in my opinion, if we spend long enough normalizing that this is the most natural thing in the world, this is more natural than any other urge in the world, I think with time, this perception could shift. But it will take some years. Maybe it will take decades. And as far as it goes that men are conditioned not to be with women who have experience of being with partners before marriage. I don't think that is the case all over the world. That's certainly not the case in Western Europe. That's certainly not the case in many other parts of the world. Yes, of course, there's a lot of slut shaming and victim blaming and, these things that accompany women and their sexual relationships, but it's not the perception all over the world. In fact, I think it's the strangest thing I've ever heard in my life because if you're a CEO, do you want to hire someone who has no experience? Why do you want to marry someone who has no experience? And this whole concept that the more inexperienced a woman is, the more valuable she is. This is so this is so strange. It's the strangest, most illogical thing I've heard because in no other area of your life you will say, "Oh, this person is so inexperienced and therefore so valuable." You'll never do that. You will never listen to a podcast where the host is stupid and they have no experience. You will never watch a TV show where the director is stupid and unintelligent and they cannot film. You will never say this was valuable. It's only with a woman and her life choices that people will conclude if she has too much experience, then she's invaluable. Like she's not valuable. It will strip her off of her value, and that is simply because she has experience. She doesn't have to put up with your crap. It's more like that. And that's interesting, because I mean, we have to call out the bluff like it is, you know?
What efforts we will need to take, especially conservative, there is a conservative world or nations, what efforts their population will need to take to normalize conversations around sex very normal, so that the future generation will not bear the mental health issues or any physical health issues related to that.
I think just eliminating shame from the equation, considering that sex is normal, this is human. None of us would be here in this world if it wasn't for sex. Women are as human as men are. They have as much a right to be who they want as much as men do. Anybody, any minority, any segment of society has the same rights like anybody else. And zero tolerance with violence, zero tolerance towards violence, zero tolerance towards emotional abuse, verbal abuse, domestic abuse. And women should not have to bargain and negotiate their life decisions. If somebody is saying, "This is what I want to do," great, do it. Why are they explaining themselves? And also education. I think more and more women are becoming financially independent, and more of them don't want to be married anymore because more people can now marry for companionship versus for economic safety. So it's changing, and I think empowered women empower women. So empowered women are saying no, and empowered women are saying that it's going to be different. It's not going to be how it was in the past. And I think financial freedom and education and independence has a big role to play. So don't underestimate that. Nobody should underestimate that.
I've asked few questions. The thing is that there are countries in the world which are developed. How their cultures were able to adopt healthy attitudes towards sex, and what did those countries did which other countries are unable to do now till now.
I don't think that Western countries have healthier attitudes to sex. I just don't think that. I think that they're a more rights-based society. So instead of me saying, I don't want to have this baby and I want to abort it, there will be less resistance to this because I'm an adult and I can decide what I want to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that the church doesn't want more babies. The church wants more babies, but I'm a human being who's capable of making that decision. And the reason I say that a lot of the West, which is considered the benevolent West, is that they're different, they're better, they're more civilized. I don't think that's the case because in Germany, for example, it's not possible to have an abortion clinic and advertise about it. It's not permitted in Germany. I'm not sure if it's not permitted or it's illegal, so I don't want to go into that binary, but you're not permitted to advertise your abortion clinic in Germany because it's seen as glorification. In Germany, if you want to get an abortion, you have to do it within the first few weeks. And if you cross that deadline, then you have to go into counseling. And they have a lot of these protocols, which just maybe it's helpful for some women, but it's a difficult system. A lot of people also lose a lot of time because of these things. So I don't think that the West is different. They are just more modern in a way that dating and sex before marriage and these things are just so much more common that if enough people are doing it, you have to change your mind about it. So that's the delta, I think.
My last two questions I have in my mind. To be honest, the conversation that we are having now, this interview, your answers are very, thought-provoking answers you are giving, and I genuinely like those answers. I have last two questions. One is a person who is a sexually aware person or who is practicing mindfulness, how that person can become a spiritually a better person.
If you are practicing mindfulness, then you're already a spiritually better person. You cannot be mindful without being healed or without caring about your own wounds. So you have to put enough effort and channel enough effort into yourself to become mindful because people who have worked on themselves, even a little bit, they are very cautious with their energy, where they spend it, who they spend it on, who they spend it with. So I think mindfulness is already part of the spiritual realm, but I am not an expert on spirituality. So I usually refrain from speaking very much about spirituality because it's always different, it's personal, different people see it in a different way. Some people like to do body work and somatic healing, and other people believe in organized religion. So it works so differently for everybody that I don't think I am qualified to speak on spirituality.
My last question is that uh, when I read your LinkedIn post, man, when I read your LinkedIn post, you mentioned that you have been through sexual abuse and that trauma really disoriented you or troubled you a lot. What you did to get healed from that trauma so that it doesn't impact your self-worth. And I think the way you are presenting yourself now, the way you are looking very energetic like the sun, the sun in solar system. So what work you did upon yourself to come out of that problem and to get healed?
Thank you for the question and thank you for your feedback. What I did was I sat down long enough and thought about what made me the way I am, why this is not okay, why it has to change. And sometimes you will not have the answers to this right away because you want to know that you want to heal from something, but you don't want to know where you want to get. So if you can even answer this question at 25% in your brain, or if you can answer this question in a manner that is satisfactory enough, I think it's a good start to take the steps that will help you look deeper. Because it's like an onion, you're peeling it, and then with every layer, you learn something. And I've always believed, if you put your mind to something, it's not possible that you cannot do it. It's just not possible. It's really not possible because um, it could be anything. People have different goals and different dreams, and no matter how it looks, if you want to do something, you have to do it long enough that you can do it. And I just wanted my life to be better and better and better and better and better. And better looks different at different stages of your life. So, what was better for me 5 years ago is maybe not better for me now. There are other things which are better for me, but you find the way as you go on, I think. And your story cannot just be that I was abused as a child. Many people are abused as a child. So what? Many people lose their parents at a very young age. They go through a serious loss in life. Many people are born with disabilities. I mean, there is a lot that can go wrong. So your story just cannot be that you were abused as a child. It has to mean more.
So, do you have any literature or books that you can suggest to people about this topic on which we had so many, on which you answered so many questions?
There are some books, but I have to think because I can't remember their name. But I can recommend a book that I've been reading, and it's by David Buss, and David Buss is a psychologist and an expert. And this book is called Why Women Have Sex. It's a good book. I think people should read that book. A lot about why people want to have sex has to do with their biology. And the woke culture has left no space for biology. Nobody wants to talk about how men are actually different from women because we're so lost in we're equal that nobody wants to talk about how different we are. We may be equal and we should aim to be equal, but we are not symmetrical. We are not the same. We're different. And I think books like these, they highlight how different we are. And I think David Buss is a great example. I mean, there are so many books that I've read about this, but I really cannot think at the top of my head right now. There is another book that is written by this radical feminist, Louise Perry. It's called The Case Against Sexual Revolution. I can also recommend this book, which I really like. It has nothing to do with sex, but it can change your life. It can change your personality. Is Brave, Not Perfect. This is written by this American Indian woman, Reshma Sujani, and she has this organization where where she teaches girls how to code, like make computer codes. And it's great because I think it changes and it challenges internally and at a very basic level how you're raised as a woman to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be yourself. So there's a lot of good resources on these issues. There is a book, a really good book, but I have to search the name of the author. Yeah, her name is Susan Bratton. She wrote this book called Sexual Soulmates. And this book has nothing to do with the love and marriage. It's literally about the fact that you can have intimacy in a relationship with anyone and you can do it with respect. It doesn't have to be your husband, it doesn't have to be your wife. It's just about two people. And she talks a lot about connected sex and mindful sex and energetic sex. Um, yeah. What else? Let me think. I mean, there's a lot of books I've read on intimacy and sex. A lot of them stuck with me at some point in my life, but they stopped sticking with me because they were also written by a lot of white women, and I could not connect with them at all. So, but I can recommend this book that I read called it's called Come As You Are, and it's one of the first books I read about intimacy and sex, and it's by this American woman. She's white. She's great in a lot of ways, but you have to read it with the awareness that her experiences are not your experiences. Maybe you live in another part of the world and your challenges and your upbringing is completely different. So, yeah.
Last question, like this is the last time I'm ending with this question. Any person or anything you are very much thankful throughout your life, which have evolved and made you a very better and most inspiring person?
Yes, my husband. I am super grateful that he's in my life. Yep. Thank you for having me. It
Yes,
was really nice.
it's a great honor to interview you. Thank you so much, Koko, and I pray that you prosper a lot in your life and you keep doing your great work on YouTube. And I just wish that you get more subscribers